The Awp is the most iconic and powerful weapon in Counter-Strike's history, and one of the most iconic in gaming history as a whole. Therefore, it becomes one of the most attractive options to do players trying to learn the game. And if you can harness the Awp's powers, it can take over games single-handedly. In the move to CS2, the Awp has gone through some heavy changes, and has fallen down a rung or two on the power scaling ladder. But even still, especially at the lower levels of play, good Awping can shut down lobbies in an instant. And that means for me, as someone who's trying to get better and grow and climb in CS2, the Awp is an attractive option for me to learn and add to my arsenal. And personally speaking, when I used to play CSGO a lot back a few years ago, around 2016-2017, I Awped a lot more than I do now, and I used to be quite good at it. Those skills have decayed, and now I want to get them back and master them even more in CS2. Which is the start of this short little series on my channel. We're going to be exploring the Awp in depth, learning how to practice, get better with it, and apply it to our games. But before we can get to all of that good stuff, we have to do a little bit of an investigation, a little bit of science if you will. Because there's something weird going on with the Awp in CS2. Something doesn't feel right compared to the CSGO version, and it's been bugging me every single day since CS2 has come out. So today, we have to answer the question, is the Awp broken in CS2? But before we tackle that, make sure you guys take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. And make sure you catch me on Twitch later tonight. After this video goes up, I stream every night starting at 8 or 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, twitch.tv/LionHeartZ1337. Come hang out, watch me fail with the Awp, fail in general, or maybe occasionally hit a clip. You never know. Anyways, let's get back into the science! So obviously it's been no secret that CS2 has not had the smoothest of launches over the last few months, namely hit reg, lag compensation, peeker's advantage, a whole host of bugs. There's been a lot of issues impacting the quality of gameplay, and most importantly, what you see not exactly being what you always get. Most players right away noticed that the Awp didn't exactly feel nearly as good as it used to. Flicks felt inconsistent, hit reg was dodgy, peeker's advantage was abysmal, and then there were other outlying issues making the Awp harder and harder to use, such as the MR12 format, econ changes, and the general nerfs in the Awps from CSGO to CS2. So in general, the Awp didn't feel like it used to. It wasn't hitting like it used to. It forced simple to retire. It was that bad. But that was 4 months, 28 videos, and many streams ago. What is the state of CS2 and the Awp now? Well, for the most part, hit reg feels pretty good. The issues with flicking are a little bit hard for me to verify the claims of because the original claims were already suspect to begin with. From what I could tell, there does not seem to be any kind of lag or inconsistency with flicking to your crosshair target with the Awp, though hard to tell, again, because one, the testing is kind of hard to do, and two, I ain't the greatest shot in the world. I don't know what to tell you. And yet, there is just something in the back of my mind that constantly bugged me. Something about the Awp didn't feel right. And then I remembered, before I started making this video, the clip. You guys know what the clip is, right? It's from IEM Sydney, the first tournament we played in CS2 at the pro level. Monesy on Anubis against Complexity. Watch the clip real quick.
The G2, on the other hand, they're a whole different beast going through the upper bracket, and on the line, where'd that bullet go, huh?
Now, what the hell's going on here? Based on what we could tell, from slowing it down and going by frame by frame, is that there was some kind of weird desync when JT shot Monesy. He hits him in the head through the wall, which should flinch you even with full armor, which should knock his Awp crosshair up. But his crosshair gets knocked up before the bullet damage is registered, causing Monesy to flinch and miss. But that's not what's important. That was a desync issue that, to my knowledge, has been patched. There was something else more insidious going on here. Look at what happens on the frame that Monesy is damaged. His Awp scope is blurry. Now, if you're not super familiar with Awp mechanics, when you scope him with the Awp or the Scout or any of the scoped weapons, the crosshair will blur and enlarge when you're moving to indicate inaccuracy. You're supposed to shoot when the scope becomes solid and stable. That's how you know that your shot will be perfectly accurate. In CSGO, that never changed while you were shooting. But in CS2, there has been a simple but unnoted change where when you take damage with the Awp or any scoped weapon, it now blurs as if you're inaccurate. So does that mean there is an accuracy added to your shot when you get shot in CS2? Because again, blur equals inaccuracy. That's the rule. So I had to investigate this. First, I had to investigate if this was still in the game. And through my testing by throwing a Molotov at my feet, having my brother shoot me in a 1v1 server, which was very annoying to set up, yes, the Awp scope does indeed blur when you take damage in this game. However, I don't know if it actually adds inaccuracy, because the next logical step was to spawn a bot, take self-damage, and then shoot while taking self-damage. And every time I did that, admittedly I did not test at super long range, the Awp shots always hit, despite the damage. So, okay, let's follow that through line again another step further. Maybe team damage doesn't affect the accuracy. So very painstakingly, I had to wait for a bot to shoot me and try and time it up so that I can line up a shot. This is the best resources I had at hand. I don't have a private server, and there is no old private matchmaking like in CSGO, where you could just launch an empty server with a buddy to test stuff. Really annoying. Valve, please. Anyways, I was able to get the perfect moment where the bot shot me with his MP9, and then I shot. And when you go frame by frame, you can see scope blurry, which should be inaccurate, but my shot was still on target. So as far as I can tell, no, being shot does not make you inaccurate while using a scoped weapon like the Awp or the Scout. However, there is a very clear issue of visual feedback. We have trained muscle memory over decades in Counter-Strike. Blurry scope, inaccurate. And now in CS2, that is not always the case. So could that be fucking up people's timings? I actually think yes. Because if you see that blur, you were trained to not shoot. It's inconsistent visual feedback, it clutters the scope, and it makes no goddamn sense. I don't know why this breaks the one rule with blurring the scope in the game. Taking damage does not add inaccuracy, but for some reason it does mess up the scope. So we come back to the titular question of this video, aka my fever dream of the last 72 hours. Is the Awp broken in CS2? I would say yes, but not in the way you were probably thinking. I think the Awp works exactly as intended in a vacuum. The accuracy appears to be correct. The movement accuracy appears to be correct. The only inconsistencies I've found in comparison to CSGO is this aforementioned issue and inconsistency with the scoped accuracy. Also, I'm still not 100% on this, but no scoping does not feel right. CS2 just has different rules, I think, for no scoping and is not the same as CSGO. So, as someone who is trying to get better at opping, then I think we need to amend how we practice our op habits. I think previously, you could largely get away with using the scope as visual feedback for when you can and can't shoot. You'd wait till the lines turn solid, you would get used to that feeling, and then that's when you would shoot. It became intuitive after a while because you would kind of know that muscle memory link with your movement in your left hand, your aiming in your right hand, you would be linked so that you know exactly when you should shoot. But now, I don't think you can rely on the visual feedback of the scope anymore. Because let's say you take chip damage from somewhere you're not aware of as you're strafing on somebody. That's going to mess with your visual acuity because the scope is going to blur. I think now you have to purely rely on your mechanics and your movement to tell you when you should shoot with the Awp. You need to get used to kind of feeling when you're counter-strafing, when you're coming to a stop. You have to use that as your feedback for when you're accurate now, because you could be standing still, and right now if someone shoots you, it's going to click in your brain that you're not accurate, but you are, so you need to take that shot. Unless Valve changes something, this really messes with the tempo of opping in general, and I think it's going to be a massive brain block for a lot of people right now and going forward. So for me, the biggest thing we'll be working on, as something you'll see in the background gameplay, is my centering is not very good. I flick and I'm off. I am aiming and I'm missing off to the sides. I need to work better at just getting my crosshair to center as fast as possible, to the center of the target as fast as I can. I'm going to be ignoring what the scope is showing me and just focusing on centering the crosshair as much as possible, and we'll see how that goes. We'll make a follow-up video pretty quick here showing some of the results. I'm going to be streaming CS2 every single night as I already have, using the Awp more and more to try and demonstrate this stuff in practice. If that intrigues you, make sure you guys come and follow along, links in the description down below. Let me know what you think about this stuff in the comments down below. Pretty interesting stuff in terms of Awp mechanics. I don't know what to think of it. I really hope Valve changes this because this is such an inconsistent and weird rule. It applies to all the scoped weapons. It's creating a lot of weird visual feedback, And frankly, once you see it, you won't unsee it. I bet many of you have barely noticed it until now. Once you know what to look for, I think it's going to line up with a lot of the inconsistency people have been talking about in their op clips to this point. Other than that, make sure you guys stick around for another video. Like, subscribe, comment as well. And I'll see you soon for another one. Later.